Okay, it says it's 6:30 by that clock, so I'd like to call the Payson Township Board of Zoning Appeals meeting to order. Thank everyone for being here this evening. It's our tradition to begin each of our meetings with the Pledge of Allegiance, so if you could stand and join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, Rachel, could you do the roll call, please?
Yes. Okay, Ken,
Present.
Dave Lindros,
Here.
Randy,
Here.
Dale Lewis,
Here.
and Chairman.
Here. Okay, do you want to do the swearing in of the witnesses now, Mandy, or by each?
I'd like to do them individually, just so that way, because the last time we tried to do it all, then people got up and spoke that weren't supposed to.
Okay, we'll do it that way. Great. So the first case here in the public hearing portion of our meeting is case 2024-0001-BZA. Rachel, can you read that case into the record, please?
Applicant Mohammed Qatari, sorry if I pronounced that wrong, submitted a conditional use application for property located at 1435 Menor Avenue. The request is for a drive-through and outdoor storage of propane, ice, and U-Haul rental vehicles.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone here to speak for the case? So, can you tell us what you found out?
Mr. Chairman, I spoke with the applicant today, and he is unable to get away from the store in time to attend the meeting this evening. And so he requested that the board continue his case to the next month.
As I understand it, this is the same property that we had issued a conditional use permit for earlier last year, but it's a change of ownership. So
Yes, it's a change of ownership, and the new owner did add the drive-through component as part of his request.
Okay, very good. Would someone like to make a motion to continue?
I'll make a motion to continue case 2024-0001.
Thank you, Ken. Is there a
second.
Andy? Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? You call the roll, please.
Randy,
Yes.
Ken,
Yes.
Dave Lindros,
Yes.
Dale,
Yes.
and Chairman.
Yes. Okay, so we'll continue this till next month. Okay, the next case is 2024-002-BZA. Rachel?
Okay, applicant Nestor Yolanda P. submitted a conditional use application for property located at 1611 Jackson Street. The request is to allow the animal husbandry of 6 bantam hens. I hope I said that right.
Okay. So I find no error in our zoning inspector requiring this to come forward for a conditional use permit. Is there anyone here to speak in favor of the permit? If you could come up and go to the microphone, state your name, and then be sworn in by our legal counsel.
All right, I'm Jessica Nestor.
What's your address?
At 1611 West Jackson Street.
And do you swear or affirm to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth before this board tonight?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Well, tell us what you like to do.
We would like permission to put a small chicken coop in the back of the property. It would be behind the house, behind our garden, so you won't be able to see it from the yard. I did add in the application some photos of the coop that we'd like to use. It's a 7x5 mobile coop. It will stay in the spot where I've circled, but if we have to move it a foot or two over, we can. We're looking to house 6 bantam hens, and those are about the third of the size of a standard chicken. So they're chickens, just a little bit smaller. They consume a lot less than a standard chicken. They still lay eggs on a regular basis, a lot less waste with them, and very minimal noise with the bantam chickens.
No roosters.
No roosters.
So I see you have some experience in,
Yes.
tell us about that.
Yes, I've been raising chickens on a friend's property out in Leroy for about 6 years, and it's kind of, or almost 8 years. Ooh. And I also work for Meyer Hatchery down in Polk, Ohio. Work remotely for them, so I'm the marketing lead for them. So I work with chickens. I know care of chickens. Chickens are my life.
So the coop, the chicken coop that you're
Yes.
looking to purchase, it's it looks like it's off the shelf type of
Yeah. So it'll be delivered to us. I've had experience with this coop before. I've actually worked with the company, and it's a really great coop because everything is integrated. On some of my pictures there, I forgot to show there is a green cover that goes over the coop itself. So you're really not going to see the chickens at all, except for maybe 6 inches around the bottom. The cover is completely airflow, so the chickens are still going to get their airflow, but it protects them from the sun. So yeah, it's just an off the shelf kind of. It's easy to clean. It's plastic. It's going to last forever, so we don't have to worry about it breaking down or anything like that.
so
Would the chickens stay contained in there, or
Yeah,
would
yeah.
they get out to wander the yard? Or
No,
anything?
because we want to keep them nice and safe. They'll stay in that coop. Because it's on wheels, we'll be able to move it over 3 feet,
wondering.
like on a postage stamp. So they're always going to have fresh grass. As far as predators go, it has a really good fence on the outside. They'll also, at night, they'll actually be locked up. There's an automatic door, a little light that comes on for about 15 minutes. It brings the chickens up to their housing area. The door closes, and then in the morning, the door will automatically open for them. And there's also a little camera in there, so everything's all automated. It's wonderful.
It's a nice coop.
Yeah.
and did you say the screening that goes, the green cover that is that on there all the time?
Yeah. So it's kind of just to protect them again from the sun, but there's complete airflow in there. So they'll still get sun, but it won't be like blaring on them, and it won't, you won't see the chickens really from the outside. It's if you get close, you can see them, but from a distance, you won't be able to.
Is one of the requirements in our zoning, in our ordinance with regard to like a chicken coop would be that what's the word I would use? It was screening that would privacy screening.
Yeah.
That's the word.
Yeah.
So, what are you saying that the cover could suffice as
Yes,
a privacy
it will
screen?
be. It will suffice as a privacy cover, and then we can also put some of that kind of like a green mesh onto the fencing as well. The fencing's pretty small, but you could put that mesh on there too, and the privacy fence would be all in there, so all enclosed.
Thanks. Other questions?
The only question I would have is with regard to privacy screening is, from legal counsel's opinion, would that be sufficient, what she's describing, sufficient to meet our resolution?
I believe that it would. I mean, what I have in my mind is that green mesh. You really can't
Yeah.
see through it. So, I guess it depends on what she has in mind versus that. So that what they're saying with the coop itself,
Yeah.
would not be in compliance
Right,
because
right.
the entire thing would have to have that privacy.
Yeah, we would put that green cover all over it. The green extra privacy. I think I put that in my notes that would be added on there as well.
Very good, thank you.
Any other questions?
How do you get rid of the waste? Do you have a plan for that?
Yes. So this coop on the top, you don't have to use as much bedding as a traditional coop, and we use. With my experience, I've used pine pellets in the top, and then that becomes incorporated into our gardens. We have lots of garden beds, so it'll all be incorporated into there or into our compost. So there'll be no odors or anything like that comes from our coop because we're constantly cleaning it and constantly moving that bedding around.
Hold on for a minute. Is there anyone here that's to speak against the request? I just wanted to check. Okay. Other questions, comments from the board? When we grant a conditional use permit, it's often with certain conditions that we would place on the request. one of which would be the length of term.
Mhm.
So we can grant anywhere from up to 5 years.
Mhm.
And so, would you have a request for us in terms of for how long to, if we were to approve this, the length of the term of the permit?
I would like the 5 years if possible. I did read that in your notes, so if we could do that, that would be
Okay.
good.
Anything else? Okay, would somebody like to make a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve. It's not on there. The conditional use of case number 2024-0002 with a length of 5 years.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion, it's been seconded. Is there any discussion? Rachel?
Okay, Dave Lindros,
Yes.
Randy,
Yes.
Ken,
Yes.
Dale,
Yes.
and Chairman.
Yes. Okay, good luck
Thank
to
you
you.
very much.
Thank
Thank you.
Mhm. All right, the third case on the agenda is case 2024-00003, BZA. Would you like to read that in the record, please?
Okay. Applicant T&J Pike Services LLC submitted a variance application for property located at 410 Temple Avenue. The request is to permit two existing unpermitted accessory structures to maintain a setback of approximately on 1 foot from the side property line in violation of section 25.08A and 25.08B, which requires that no structure shall be any closer than 25 feet to a side yard property line, and that no structure shall exist within 75 feet of a residential property.
Okay, find no error in our zoning inspector requiring this case to be come forward for a variance application. Is there anyone here to speak in favor of the request? If you could come up and approach the microphone.
Could you state your first and last name?
Tony Pike,
And what's your current address?
410 Temple Avenue.
And do you swear or affirm to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth to this board tonight?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Pike, can you tell us, what you want to do, what you're looking for here?
Well, there's two buildings that are, of course, within a foot of the property line, and I'm asking for a variance. I have a neighbor who I got a letter from saying she has no problem with it whatsoever. If I was to go that 75 foot, I couldn't put it on the property anywhere. Okay. And then Mr. LaCava, who is also my neighbor, does not have any trouble with the buildings that are there. And he's also a landscaper and will be putting the grass in the front of the property that you guys have requested.
Okay, so there's actually two different property owners where the sheds are encroaching. It's Mrs. Elizabeth Wagner Swain. I think
Yes.
The letter, and then the other property, it's right up against Temple Avenue.
Yes, that's LaCava's landscaping.
Yeah, okay, great.
Both properties of which we have owned in the past.
All right. The question is, so these are for variances of buildings that were unpermitted. So can you tell me a little about what happened there? How did they get built without a permit?
Well, the one I put there for a small camper that I had. And then, of course, like anyone else, I got a bigger camper. So that's how the second one got built.
Questions from the board?
Is there a fence there, or how did you determine the property line?
There is a fence there. I fenced the whole property when I got it.
That was surveyed at the time, so that definitely
Absolutely.
is the property line?
It's 6 inches on my side of the property line.
The fence is.
Yes, sir.
So when these buildings were built, they didn't get inspected by the county or?
No.
They just materialized? Did you install them yourself, or did you have somebody do it?
I bought the one shed from that guy on the other side of the township. He's got a wood business over there. It was
I know
just
what you mean.
yeah,
By Liberty?
yeah. And the other one I fabricated.
Is that a steel building, huh?
Yes. I like steel. Holds up well, looks good.
Harley, do you have any input for us? Any perspective?
The applicant will also have to go through the site plan review after this, but it made more sense for that to wait until after the board's decision this evening. It is an unfortunate situation that exists, but we're dealing with it now as best we can. The encroachment on the La Cava property isn't as concerning to me as the property with the residential use, especially as new ownership comes in and potential complaints come in for that. With the shed being so close, but there's also a concrete pad poured underneath, which creates another hardship on the property owner. That's really all I can say, Mr. Chairman. I don't.
Okay. So tell me a little bit more if this, how does our action tonight affect the site review going forward? What would be the implications one way or the other?
So, a lot of, especially the one that abuts the residential use, there are certain screening requirements that would have been required for a new structure on that side of the property that the original building isn't required to adhere to. That said, the entire property has been gravelled, and the applicant may have then submitted another application for variance if that landscape requirement isn't met, if the building is required to meet the setback requirement. There may be other things depending on how the zoning commission votes that may have to come back before the board, depending on what requirements they place on the property owner. But I can't speak for them, and I don't know how they're going to view it. I can't really say. But the location of the building will greatly affect, if this board does not approve the variance request, that would greatly affect the site plan review application for the structures.
So we're kind of in a difficult situation here because the typically when there's a variance request, there's certain percentages that we like to follow, and this being 1 foot from the property line is could be considered excessive. I can't say how the board's going to vote, but that's one of the things we look at. Another thing we look at is the adjacent property owner, his or her input has bearing on how we feel. And so in this case, you do have the one property owner written letter saying that there's no issue. But the concerning factor is the buildings were put up without a permit, so kind of that puts us in a kind of an awkward situation to decide, you know, what's the right path going forward. So,
Mr. Chairman,
yes.
just so, I'm not clear of what will happen after this. Typically, we would give this variance or not, but if we gave the variance, then he would apply for a permit to have it built. In this case, it's already built.
Yeah.
Does he now go to the inspection, go to the building department and say, we need to have an inspection to see if this building meets code? Because, you know, it's a, I'm assuming a steel building shouldn't be that hard to be re-inspected, but, you know, and I'm not certain how they work, but I would assume that there would be a fine for not getting an inspection.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
all of these things come, I don't know, is it, maybe, Harley, do you know if they, what the next step is? Does this go then to the building department, or?
So it will need building permit approval, and that is mostly because we've now inherited the problem of having an unpermitted building, and should you ever sell your property and something happen with that structure and they find that we knew of the building's existence and we put you through this process but didn't work with the building department to ensure that it was properly permitted through them, if there's a liability that we could take on because of some missed requirement in the building code. So it would need to have a retroactive building permit as well. Well, both of them would, and that would all go through the building department. Which once we find an unpermitted structure, during our processes, the first thing we do is notify the building department. So the building department is aware of their existence and probably just waiting on you to contact them if they haven't already reached out to you.
Now, you said one building was purchased intact and moved there, or did they build it for you?
They build it.
They built it?
Yeah.
And that's a steel building. The reason I asked is that the buildings that they show at the corner, you could easily move it this way or that way, but I'm assuming that this is permanent then. Both
Well,
buildings.
they're bolted down to concrete. And as we know, everything's movable.
Yeah.
But with the restrictions of the way it's written, there's nowhere on the property I could put it.
I think it's 20 foot, isn't it, from a side setback?
75 from the what you're calling residential, that is
Oh,
not
I see what
residential.
you're saying. Which is the residence? This one here? I can't tell from the map. Would that be this residence here?
Let me see where we're at here. Temple Avenue. Yeah, it'd be this residence right here.
And then this is the lady that you talked to. That
This is the lady,
Okay.
and this is La Cava.
this is the.
He bought my old property
All right.
there.
So this is going to be commercial, probably.
It is. And when we own this, it is also commercial property, and the house was built as a meeting area. You know, the walls are all movable and everything like that. I'm very familiar with all the property because it's been in our family before.
Yeah, so that property is currently zoned industrial, but because there's a residential use on it, they're afforded the same protections, including the setback requirements that a residentially zoned property, and that's why it's being enforced that way.
And just so you know, I talked to that lady years ago, and if she hadn't gotten married, she would have moved within a year, and I'd own the property right now.
It would be preferable if the residential use ceased to exist. It would make it a lot easier. But, I mean, if you have wiggle room in moving the structures, maybe not meeting the setback requirement, but moving the structures, they have the authority to maybe not grant your variance request as written, but they can work with you on what would be acceptable, what would be an acceptable setback, a workable one that is better for their percentages when considering the there's a word I'm looking for. Doesn't matter. But considering how much of a variance you're requesting, that would probably be helpful for them. I'm not saying you have to do that. I'm just, when you said everything is movable and
At an expense.
yes.
Well, the largest of the two is pretty far from residential. It's the smaller of the two that creates the biggest problem. As Harley pointed out, it's so close to
Yeah.
now residence. You know, regardless of what it used to be, it is now being used as a residence. So, how much room do you have on that pad that you already have poured there?
You mean how far can I move it away from the fence?
Yeah.
Not a whole lot, because the driveway that all the people who rent from me drive up and down,
Right.
you know, it's 20 foot wide or so.
Can you scoot it closer to Temple?
Well, I'm looking at the pad here. I'm wondering how much this way you could go.
Well, that's just it. We've got truckers that rent back here, and they bring semis in, turn around,
Yeah.
in and out all the time. So you're not going to go that way very far. If you were to go 75 foot, it'd be on top of this building.
Well, I agree with you. The 75 foot in this application, although, you know, you got plenty of property. Had you known all these problems were going to occur, it could have gone a lot of different places. It's, you know, it's here now. It'd be nice to get it a little further away. That's for sure.
It would, almost as if the building were abutted against the other building that's there, the larger one. If the smaller one were moved all the way over to a butt and they're side by side, that would certainly help. I think, and there's two factors I think at play here. One is when we think, Harley, you mentioned the hardship. One of the guiding principles that we work on is called the Duncan factors, and there's 7 criteria that have to be met, or that should be met, that we consider. And one of those is resale value. Another one is the whether the hardship was created by the applicant. And in this case, the hardship was created by the applicant. So we're kind of in a bit of a quandary, because we have to look at that factor that the hardship was there, but at the same time, there's another hardship that had you not built the buildings that we would be looking at, which is the adjustment by percentage. So it is a little bit difficult, I think. Personally, I think for me, it would be better to see the building moved, and I'm just wondering if we need a better dimensional map to be able to see that and look at dimensions and what percentages are. But just feedback for the board, I think.
Thank you. What about the idea of moving that building closer towards Temple, closer to the other building that is the larger building that's there, that's abutting the Kova property?
Yeah, like I said, I can do anything. It's just a matter of time and money. So, at one point in time, I owned that property that La Cava's on. And I've told that story to Harley, and she knows why I sold it. Okay? So, if I still own that property, yeah, those buildings would be over there. And if you want me to move that building over, it may take me a while, but I'll do it.
So for clarity, over towards the the structure that's this one here.
Yes, sir.
This way.
I can move it right there. Sorry.
This way.
Thank you.
All right, because that gets it away from the
And
residential.
then go ahead with the 1 foot on the large building.
Yeah.
That, you know, that's against a commercial property there. It doesn't seem too Well, fortunately, they're steel. They should be fairly easy to move. I mean,
Okay.
We're just making my summer.
well,
Other thoughts, comments from the board? I think one of the things we always like to do at our board is to work with the property owner to come to some kind of an understanding that addresses the issues that both parties have. So that's why it's important to have this conversation to see if you have some flexibility to work with us in trying to reduce the impact of the variance. There's still going to be a variance here, but it's not to the
Understood.
degree. Right. Okay.
How close would you be able to move that building to the other one towards Temple?
Put it right on top of it, right up against the side.
Yeah. Say within 5 feet.
Well, actually, I can attach it to that building and bring the roof off of that building to cover the whole structure.
Okay. So attach it next to it.
It's
Okay.
just a matter of figuring it out.
Right.
And you'll get a permit for that one?
What, to move that?
Well, when you go to rebuild all this stuff, it's gonna.
Sure.
Well, and that's a good point again. So if we can approve the variance tonight with the condition that the new position is attached to the other building, then he can take that variance and then he would go to the, to get a building permit based on that. So, okay.
Harley, if he attaches it, will the structure be too large for that property, or will?
No, luckily
Okay.
no. Luckily no. It's industrially zoned, so we don't have a maximum
Okay.
square footage. We don't even have an impervious surface requirement in that district. So, yeah, I was thinking about that, and I double checked our code, and I also looked to see if we have a maximum or a minimum distance between two structures, which we do not in the I-1 district. So it would be fine if it was right next to it, or if it became one structure.
Well, that's basically what I'll do. Make it one structure.
Any other comments, concerns, questions from the board? Okay, would somebody like to make a motion on this particular case?
I'll make the motion to approve the case number 2024-0003 with the content of putting the building, attaching the smaller building to the larger building towards Temple.
Did you guys want to discuss a timeline for that so we know when?
What would be reason?
It'll be a good part of my summer to move that.
Okay, so I
Okay.
want to say
Fall?
August?
Like, yeah,
Works for me.
August. Okay.
August.
Okay.
To have the building moved by August.
Can you say about building permits, just to get it for the record?
As we discussed about after this variance is approved or not, but if it is approved, that you actually have to go get a building permit. And
I see her for that, right?
No, that's Dave Strichko with Lake County Building Department.
Okay. I'll get that information from you later.
Okay.
Okay, good. All right.
I will second that motion.
Thank you. Harley, do you want to read that back to us just so we're clear what the motion is?
Okay, so you want to attach the smaller building to the larger building closer and move it closer to Temple. The building needs to be moved by August. And then what was the building permit clarification, Mr. Chairman? Rachel had said attach the building to the other building and move it closer to Temple. I just want to verify. We're not moving
Not
the
moving the
original
building, just
structure. We're just attaching the other.
attaching the smaller structure to the larger structure
Yeah.
that's near Temple.
And
We also
and
need to
not
include
further
one-
encroaching, because that building is at the minimum setback line.
Right.
So attach the smaller building to the larger building. Oh, wait.
That's closer to Temple, the larger building that's
Okay.
closer to Temple.
Yeah.
With the 1 foot variance.
Yeah, and we can also include an illustration with the motion, so then that way it's
Okay.
more clear. And what was the building permit?
And required to obtain all building permits, all necessary building permits.
Obtained. Okay. And all building permits be obtained.
So the motion's been moved, it's been seconded. Is there any other discussion on the motion? Okay, would you like to call the roll, please? Rachel.
Okay, Ken,
Yes.
Dave Lindros,
Yes.
Randy,
Yes.
Dale,
Yes.
and Chairman.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so the variance has been granted, so the the actual, this doesn't formally go into effect until we approve the minutes of this particular meeting, which would occur at our next meeting, but
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, I apologize for interrupting, but staff would request that you hold off on journalization for this
Okay.
case simply because we still have to go through the site plan review
Okay.
for this as well,
Good point.
which is in March.
okay, very good. All right, so as far as what you need in terms of building permits, we work with our zoning inspector, and she'll make sure you get in touch with the right people at the county. Okay,
All right.
thank you.
Good luck,
Sure.
eh?
Yeah, good luck to you. All right, that concludes the business, the public hearing. So I'd like to have a motion to close our public hearing.
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I second.
Hey, Rachel, could you call the roll, please?
Okay, Ken,
Yes.
Dave Lindros,
Yes.
Randy,
Yes.
Dale,
Yes.
and Chairman.
Yes. Okay, down in the regular meeting, the first order of business is the acknowledgement of our minutes from December. Everyone should have got a copy of that by email. Is there any comments or changes to be recommended to the minutes? Hearing none, then we'll approve the minutes as written. Thank you. The next item, is there any other old business to be brought before the board? Okay, the new business is, it's hard to believe it's that time of year for the election of officers, which is the chair position and the vice chair. I did talk with Tom Hill, and he is willing to serve another term as our chair if it would be our wishes to vote him in for that. And I know he's talked to some other folks too. So if he's watching on TV, we appreciate that. So is there any? So he would like to have his name put into nomination. Is there anyone else who would like to put their name in for chair? Okay, hearing none, then I'd like to have a motion to move for. I can't make the motion, but would somebody like to make the motion for our chair?
I will make the motion that we elect Mr. Tom Hill as our chairperson.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Okay, Rachel, could you call the roll, please?
Okay, Randy,
Yes.
Dave Lindros,
Yes.
Dale,
Yes.
and Ken,
Yes.
and Chairman.
Yes. Okay, for the position of vice chair, that's next. I would like to say that as serving as vice chair, I'm happy to be considered for this position again, but I'm also more than happy if somebody else would like to have the opportunity to serve as vice chair. I have no problem with that whatsoever, but I just wanted to state that for the record.
Okay, guys, you guys jumping in or what?
Crickets. Any other names for vice chair? Okay, hearing none. Well, someone will need to make the motion then.
I will make the motion that we would elect Mr. David Nzera for the position of vice chair.
Second.
All right, it's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Okay, Rachel, could you call the roll, please?
Okay, Dave Lindros,
Yes.
Dale,
Yes.
Ken,
Yes.
Randy,
Yes.
and Chairman.
Yes. Thank you. Appreciate that very much.
You guys do a very well job. Like, it's gonna take me a few more years to get to that.
We have a
To climb that ladder.
we have a well-oiled machine here. So,
Works just fine.
great, thank you. Okay, any other new business? Hearing none, then need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I will second.
All right. Rachel, would you call the roll, please?
Okay, Dave Lindros,
Yes.
Randy,
Yes.
Ken,
Yes.
Dale,
Yes.
and Chairman.
Yes. Okay, very good. So our next meeting is Tuesday, the 12th, here, and